Welcome back. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis said this evening that former President Trump is a different guy than he was in 2016, and he owed it to Republican voters to be on that debate stage. Well, he wasn't there, but nevertheless, Governor DeSantis, as forcefully as he could, made his case for why he should receive the Republican Party's nomination. This just days after receiving an endorsement, which the DeSantis campaign believes could be pivotal, from Iowa's popular Republican Governor Kim Reynolds. Governor DeSantis' campaign manager, James Uthmeier, joins us now. James, it's good to see you. I know you believe Governor DeSantis won. We'll skip that part. Tell me what happened tonight that will propel the DeSantis campaign where it most immediately needs to be propelled, which is in the state of Iowa.
Yeah, so again, 3 for 3, Ron DeSantis showed up. He won the night. He showed up as a fighter. Everybody knows he's a fighter. But what makes him different is he fights and wins. We need someone who will fight, win, and then lead America's great comeback. Tonight, he spoke directly to people at home in a way that no other candidate on stage did. He talked about the very, personal stories that he's encountering on the campaign trail that are really impacting, him as he explains his vision for the people. People that have suffered from fentanyl, people that have suffered from the invasion at the border, people that are suffering at home, unable to afford their mortgage, unable to afford gas. That's because of Biden inflation. This is not easy for the American dream to succeed anymore. And Ron DeSantis, he showed he will fight, win, and lead at a time that is so important as Republicans just yesterday had sweeping losses across the country. We need a new leader who will enable us to win again.
James, you know well, and I know you're battling all the sounds around you, and you're doing so gamely, so I applaud you for that. But you know the narrative that there is this inevitability about former President Trump, that he's so far ahead he simply cannot be caught. Explain to our audience the theory of the case, how he can be caught, and not just caught, but surpassed.
Sure. Well, it's clear out there that over 70% of the electorate, they're looking at their options. They're very much open to another option. They want a fresh change. They want somebody that can actually show up and serve 2 terms. They want somebody that can win again. And I'll tell you who definitely doesn't believe this thing is over, and that's the former president. He's spending millions of dollars of attack ads in Iowa against Ron DeSantis. He's sending top staff there. He's constantly, tweeting about Ron DeSantis and his appearance while things like hurricanes and war, are breaking out. It's definitely bothering him. He sees where the threat is. He knows who the American people are ultimately going to want to side with. And I think his behavior, that tells us everything we need to know.
James, it was late in tonight's proceedings, but there was a lively conversation about abortion and the Republican Party. The governor signed a 6-week ban in Florida. So is Governor Reynolds in Iowa. Governor Haley, former Governor Haley, and others talked about maybe something in the 15-week range or something that is a larger consensus. Do you believe the governor's position, sharply defined on the issue of abortion, is a net positive in this primary campaign and can be well defended should he become the Republican nominee?
Sure, yeah. So the governor recognizes that in the wake of the Dobbs case, a lot of the decision-making here went back to the states. And states are going to fall down in different areas as it becomes more of a states' rights issue. That said, there are states like California where many are still advocating for abortion all the way up until birth, and some even arguing after birth. This is extreme. It's horrific. He does believe there is a case for the federal government to intervene there. The idea that Congress is going to get together and put together some sort of 15 or 12-week ban, that's just not realistic. And it's unfortunate that these types of hypotheticals take away from some of the real hard issues that are facing Americans out there that need to be discussed.
But, James, is there anything about yesterday's results, specifically in Ohio and Virginia, that give the governor or you as his campaign manager pause about abortion and its long-term effects on the Republican Party and those who seek to lead it?
Sure. Look, I don't know that all the results from yesterday are necessarily dependent on abortion. Shoot, the governor signed a 15-week bill last year in Florida and then won the state by over 20 points, a swing state. He drugged the legislative races all with him and turned Florida deep red, which has enabled the state to put together a strong agenda to perform and perform well, to help people out on record-setting, tax relief for families, on record-setting infrastructure, combating the border. You name the issue, school choice, you name it, he's done it. And he did that because of strong leadership and an ability to win. So, on the pro-life topic, I do think the conservative movement needs to regroup and better strategize, work on its messaging a little bit. But at the end of the day, I think it's more about the larger lack of political leadership. We need somebody that can win. I can't say that enough. And that person is Ron DeSantis. He's proven it over and over again. He delivers.
Campaign manager for Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida, James Uthmeier, thanks so much for your time.